Welcome for the Hindu editorial analysis of August 4th. You can hit the like button, subscribe my channel and also give your opinion about the video. So coming to the first article, the Nota principle on Rajya Sabha polls. See guys, this article is all about the recent Supreme Court judgment that the Nota option will be available for the Rajya Sabha elections. So this article is related to that, and before going into this article, you just need to know what is the meaning of Nota. See, Nota is none of the above option which is available on the ballot for the voter, which gives him an option not to choose any candidate. Fine. So this is the layman term of Nota. So coming to the article now, this article tries to say that should Nota be an option in assembly vote for the Rajya Sabha? Because see, Nota was already an option which is available in the direct election. One could have noticed in the Lok Sabha elections that the Nota was introduced, but whether it should also be introduced in the Rajya Sabha, and even this article tries to say that the Gujarat Assembly Secretary statement that the Nota option will be available on the ballot in the Rajya Sabha election next week, but the Congress and the BJP have convinced the Supreme Court and the Election Commission that the MLA should not have this option, that is, Nota should not be available in the Rajya Sabha election, but the Supreme Court has refused to stay their demands and they have allowed Nota. Fine. And this article also tries to say that it is important to note that the open ballots are used in Rajya Sabha election, and these elections follows a proportional representation system based on a single transferable. See guys, proportional representation system means a method of election where each voter has a single vote that is transferable. For instance, a voter will rank the individual candidates 1, 2, 3, etc. in an order of preference, or they may vote for the order of preference published in advance by the political parties of their choices. So just remember, in this way they will order in preference, and the MPs are elected by receiving a minimum number of votes. This is known as quota, and it is based upon the number of votes in each electorate, and it also depends upon the number of MPs to be elected. So the candidates who reach the quota first tends to be elected, and if there are still electorate seats to fill, then the process continues until the seats are filled. See, in this, the votes of the elected candidate received beyond the quota are transferred to the candidate ranked next. So this process continues until the seats are filled. So this is called as proportional representation system by a single transferable vote. So this article says that it is unlike the general election to the Lok Sabha, which are conducted with secret ballots, and this Rajya Sabha election is based on the first past the post principle. And even this article tries to say that the idea behind using the Nota is to allow the voter to register a protest vote. See guys, protest vote means he can showcase his will by not choosing anyone. Fine. So that is what this article tries to say. So in this Rajya Sabha election, if the MLA chooses Nota, then the vote casted will be ineffective. Fine. And even this article tries to say that in principle, the presence of Nota option allows the possibility of a protest vote, which I told you, and it sometimes go against the party's whip, that is against the party's command for choosing candidate who are not agreeable to them. Fine. See guys, for instance, take an example of Congress. Congress may ask their party representatives, their party's MLA of Legislative Council to choose a candidate in the Rajya Sabha election. But because of the prevalence of Nota, they may go against their party decision. Fine. So this article tries to say that the principle of protest vote, that is voting against the will of the party, remains the same even these are indirect elections. So the principle of protest vote is present in India with respect to direct and indirect elections. And even this article tries to say that the question of anti-defection law comes into play. See, anti-defection law is something which is applied for disqualifying a candidate. So if a member of a political party who is elected goes against the party's decision, then anti-defection law can be applied to him. So casting a vote under Nota is against the party whip. But the important point to be noted is this anti-defection law provisions does not apply to this Nota, and the MLA is not disqualified from the membership of the House. And it is because the Supreme Court has in the past held that electing someone in the Rajya Sabha elections against the whip will not lead to disqualification as the 10th schedule pertaining to the anti-defection provision. So according to the 10th schedule, which defines anti-defection law, a member of Legislative Assembly can go against the party will by choosing the member of Parliament in Rajya Sabha. Fine. And even this article tries to be political in nature in 2 or 3 sentences. It says that the Congress party wants a particular candidate as a nominee so that it has opposed Nota. So this article tries to say that it is not that the BJP will be benefited in the short run. Both have their their worrisome over a long run. And this article tries to say is that instead of protesting against the Nota in indirect election, parties should be forecasting for their floor management. That is, they could convince their candidates. Fine. So that's it with respect to this article. We'll move on to. So coming to the next article, half-done reform. See guys, this article is all about the government doing away with the subsidies of LPG. So this article tries to say that the government has informed the parliament about its decision that it is completely going to do away with the subsidy offered to the cooking gas, which is used for the household sectors. So even this article tries to say that the public sector companies were given authorization that they could increase the price until the subsidy is totally wiped off. Because of this, there is an increasing pressure from the opposition parties in the parliament, which made the minister to argue that they are just rationalizing the subsidies rather than cutting down the subsidies. So that amount of political pressure was placed by the opposition. So this article tries to brings in few facts. See guys, the first para of the article is not very much important. You just need to know that the government is going to cut down the subsidies of LPGs, and one could interpret this article in this way that what are the effects it could bring. So writing down effects can be helpful in your answer writing. So coming to this article now. So this article tries to say that last year the companies were allowed to raise rupees 2 per month, but now they have allowed to raise rupees 4. So allowing to raise rupees 4 per month is a sort of aggressive policy which the government is pursuing, is the opinion of the article. And this article also tries to bring in few interesting facts. It says that the global crude oil prices have been fallen. So, because of the fall in global crude oil prices, there is a difference between the subsidized and the non-subsidized prices. That is, there is a great mismatch between the both, and tries to bring in the fact that last year rupees 25,000 crores was given to the oil subsidies, which has burdened the government a lot. But at the same time, compared to the fiscal year of 2013, subsidies of rupees 1 lakh crore, this 25,000 crore is reasonable. So this article tries to say that the cut down in the subsidies could strengthen the fiscal discipline. See guys, I would like to make few points here. I'd just like you to answer that this fiscal subsidies would come in revenue expenditure or capital expenditure. So write it in the comment box. So see, obviously cutting down the subsidies could bring in fiscal deficit. That is, the government will be spending less, the expenditure will be less, so that the government could save more, reducing the deficit. So what I want you to do is write in the comment box whether the subsidies given to the LPGs is revenue expenditure or capital expenditure. Fine. So this article tries to say that the implementation of direct benefit scheme in the LPGs has benefited a lot, and especially the poor, and even reforms in the direct benefit transfer, that is targeting only the poor people or those people below the poverty line, has helped the government reducing wasteful spending. See, direct subsidies in itself has reduced wasteful spending, plus targeting the poverty line and asking of people to give up LPG subsidies has made government to save more. And this article also tries to say that the fall in international oil prices has also benefited the government, and the government felt that this is the right time because of the decrease in the international prices of oil. So cutting down the subsidies would not harm more. But this article tries to put in few facts. It says that nearly 18 crore people are below the poverty line who are dependent on the subsidies gas cylinder. They are the one who will be affected the most. But according to this article, it is a rational decision which is taken at the current scenario of decreased oil prices. So cutting down the LPG subsidies could not harm more. And even this article tries to say that leaving out to the market is the better way of doing it, because the government is not going for subsidies, then the prices of the LPG will be based on the demand and supply, and it will be based on the international prices. So this article tries to say that leaving out the market, deregulating the market for cooking gas and bringing in competition would help to manage the price of the LPGs. See, government unregulated market will be dependent upon the demand and the supply, where many players will come in. So they will compete with themselves and they will bring up the quality, and in order to sustain the competition, they will reduce the price. So that's what this article tries to say. So that's it with respect to this article. We'll move on to the next article now. So coming to the next article, restoring parliamentary primacy. See guys, this article is all about budget. It tries to bring in the reality with respect to the budget. It tries to bring in the reforms in the budget, and it also tries to criticize the budget. So what we'll do is, we'll just look at the background first, because without knowing how the budget is prepared, there is no point in reading this article, because you cannot understand the criticism. So what we'll do is, we'll just go into the background first. We'll see how the budget is prepared, then we'll move on to the article. Fine. So coming to the background. See, generally budget is prepared by budget division. division. So the budget division happens to be under Department of Economic Affairs, which is under the Ministry of Finance. So the budget division is under Ministry of Finance. Fine. And what happens is every year, generally it used to happen in October or November, but because of the preponement of the budget, generally in August, the budget division issues an annual circular. An annual budget circular, you can remember a form, fine, to each and every ministries, which will contain guidelines on how to prepare budget estimates. Fine. So what will happen is they will issue the circular to each and every ministries. Then the ministries will prepare and present their estimates for budget allocation. So I'd like to make one important point. These budget estimates which is presented by the ministries is called as demand for grants. Fine. So what will happen is the budget division will give the circular to the ministries and the ministries will give their estimates. That is how much money they want. That is they will provide for the estimates of the revenue receipts. That is how much money they have received and the expenditure which they are going to incur in the next financial year. It then present back to the finance ministry. Then what happens is the finance minister examines the proposal which is received by the various ministries. They tend to consolidate all the budget estimates and then they consult the Prime Minister with respect to that, and they also brief the Union Cabinet Council of Ministers. Then they prepare a consolidated budget which consists of receipts and the expenditure. Fine. So the budget division does this work and then it presents to the finance ministry. Then what the finance minister does is they present this budget to the president. Then the president fixes the date to pass the budget in the parliament. Then the budget is passed in the parliament. Fine. I hope my point is clear. I have also given you a graph here. First, the budget division issues an normal budget circular. Then estimates are prepared by the ministries. Then the finance minister examines the estimates. Then the budget division consolidates it. Then it is presented to the president for passage in the parliament, Lok Sabha in particular. So I'd like to make one point here. You could see in this whole process, the finance minister plays an important role, who happens to be a political personality. Even though the budget division will consist of many bureaucrats, but one important point to be noted here is that this budget preparation in India tend to be political in nature, where the person in power has a say in the budget. And even in the Lok Sabha, the majority can easily pass a budget. So the budget preparation in India tend to be political in nature. Fine. I hope the background is clear. If you don't understand, please write in the comment box. I can explain you. So we'll move on to the article. So coming to the article, restoring parliamentary primacy. See, as I told you before, this article is all about criticizing the budget and it tries to bring in few solutions to it. It says that there is a need for parliamentary budget office in India and there is a concern in establishing it. So a parliamentary budget office is an independent body. It will be an impartial body which will be linked to the parliament, and the important point to be noted is that it will provide technical and objective analysis of budget to the House and its committee. In a crux format, it is a body to provide technical assistance. Fine. So this article also tries to say that the parliament happens to be an guardian of the public purse, because see, ultimately it is the approval of the parliament which is required to take out money from the consolidated fund of India. So it is the guardian of the public purse, and even this article tries to say that the parliament play a greater role with respect to the budgetary governance. See, the budgetary governance here, the article which refers to is that it refers to the budget approval, scrutiny of its implementation and holding the government to account. See guys, I'd like you to comment that the scrutiny of the budget is done by. So you can answer this in the comment box. The answer is very easy. So coming to the article now. So the budgetary governance include budget approval, scrutiny and its accountability. Fine. So this article tries to say that the parliament lacks the capability because it does not have technical efficiencies, and that's why it resorts to arbitrary taxation, widening fiscal deficit and unequal allocation of public resources. See, it is a sense of criticism, but even we can talk in a positive manner saying that the people give and trust to the government, where the government allocate the budget for the people. So it is ultimately the people's budget. So even we can present our views in a positive way, but this article is a criticism. Fine. And even this article tries to say that many indicators in India throughout the years have suggested that the executive has not been successful in implementing budgetary governance in India. So the example which the article tries to bring in is that there is an unequal distribution of public resources, there is an income inequality in India, and there is a prevalence of poverty, unemployment, malnourished children and underinvestment in schemes such as health and education. So these are the scenarios which reflects that the executive has not been successful in bringing in budgetary governance. And this article also tries to say that budget is something which is a contract between citizens and the states. It is a sort of treaty between the politics and the citizens. And in Indian politic economy, that is the parliamentarians and the state governments, has failed to bring in a satisfactory budgetary performance. So this article tries to say that there is a need for an executive and legislative balance with respect to the budgetary governance. See guys, ultimately it is the party in power will dominate the budget. The budget allocation will be with respect to the party's agenda. For instance, I could say that if demonetization is bought in by the present government, then the budget allocation will be according to demonetization. So this article tries to say that the budgetary allocation should be outside the purview of political encroachment. And even this article tries to brings in the parliament way of approving budget. It says that first the budget is presented into the house, then the scrutiny for the demand for grants is made, then a debate is made, then there is a consideration and approval of the budget which is made. See guys, I would like to say this in an point formats. First, what happens is President recommendation is obtained for the introduction of budget, and after President recommendation, the budget is laid down in the Lok Sabha. So at that time, the finance minister gives the speech. Then it is laid down to the Rajya Sabha for discussion. So the Rajya Sabha does not have any power to vote for the demand for grants. I have told you what is the meaning of demand for grants. And then the discussion of the budget starts in the Lok Sabha, and generally the discussion happens in two stages. And it is after this discussion, a department related standing committees is appointed to review the demand for grants of each ministries. Then the departmental standing committee presents its views. A detailed discussion of the reports takes place in the parliament. Then the voting for the demand for grants takes place, and after which appropriation bill and finance bill is passed. See guys, appropriation bill is those bill which authorize the government to take money out of Consolidated Fund of India, to spend money from Consolidated Fund of India, and finance bill is with respect to the taxation policies. So as the passage of two bills, the budget is deemed to pass. Fine. So this article tries to explain the process, but in a correct format I have given you in the expanded manner. See, as I have told you that the process of budget allocation, you could see that there is not even a single presence of technical committee which is present for the passage of budget. There is no institutional and technical competence. There is no technical and expertized opinion is presented. So this article tries to say that bringing in parliamentary budget office could mitigate this issue. So this article tries to say that for bringing in institutionalized, there is a need for the Parliament Budgetary Office, which could bring in technical opinions, which can help towards deficit control, fiscal discipline, that is enhancing the fiscal discipline, and it could also promote accountability. Further, it can also give a chance for the public debate on the budget policies and public finance. And even this article tries to compare it with the world. It says that among the growing trend, that is, if you look at many nations, there the passage of budget involves an opinion from the budget research units. For instance, this article tries to bring in the example of OECD countries. See, OECD countries happens to be the developed nation. It says that in those nations, parliamentary budget office is presented in the form of budget research unit. So they are independent to scrutinize the budget. And even it tries to say that many developing nations, for instance, it tries to bring in examples of few nations such as Philippines, South Africa, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Liberia. So these are few nations which also have budget research units. So there is a need for technical expertise in India too. Fine. And even this article in the second part tries to bring in the role of Parliament Budget Office. It says that it has 4 core functions, and that is independent and objective economic forecast, baseline estimate service, analysis of the executive budget proposals, and providing medium to long-term analysis. See guys, I would also like to make a point here. This work is done by the Economic Survey in India. Fine. So every year before the presentation of the budget, the Economic Survey does the same work, but the only factor is that the Economic Survey is presented by the bureaucrats and it has certain political influence. Fine. So this article tries to bring in the 4 core functions and says that the PBO can bring in economic forecast in its independent way, or even it can provide an analysis with the official forecast. So it can bring in few data which can be helpful in providing an efficient budget. And even it tries to bring in that it can also perform other tasks like economic analysis, tax analysis, long-term analysis, option for spending, budgetary framework. So these sort of policy framing can be bought in. And it also tries to say that it is different from other parliamentary research services. It also differs from the various finance commission, public accounts committee. See, what it tries to say is a public accounts committee is an independent committee with specialized staff such as economists, experts, budget analysts. But this PBO will be independent and it will be mandated to serve the parliament. See, there is a thick difference between the two. See, the public accounts committee, what it will do is it will scrutinize the budget as in the case of CAG. But what this article tries to say is this PBO that is Parliament Budgetary Office, will aid the budget formation and execution and implementation. Fine. And it also tries to say that while presenting its view, it could be transferable, accessible and understandable. Fine. And even this article tries to talk about parliamentary scrutiny. It says that parliament scrutiny of public finance is an important aspect of government accountability. For a democratic nations, there is a need for parliamentary accountability. So in order to bring in proper efficiency and accountability, there is a need for us to upgrade to the international standard, that is PBO. And this article tries to say that it is the parliamentarians alone which can bring this. As a representative of the people, they can improve the budget policies. And as an advantage, it says that the PBO in parliament will have a positive impact on the House abilities to carry out the budgetary oversight and fiscal decision making. But the concern is that it is very difficult to implement in India because it will get opposition from we people, that is bureaucratic people. See, why would one devolve his power? Why would the budget division or the Ministry of Finance, Department of Economic Affairs will give the preparation of budget to another office, that is Parliament Budget Office? So this article tries to say that the bureaucrat will not be allowing this, and it is likely to attract opposition, and even to an extent legislature would himself oppose that, because see, to talk about it frankly, parliamentarians would tend to appoint those persons who are very favorable to them, that is the bureaucrat person. So this article tries to say that even parliamentarians would not bring in these sort of bodies or these sort of office where they are in the sense of uncertainty. So this article tries to say that in order to bring in Parliament Budget Office, there is a need for political will and there is a need for public support. Fine. So that's it with respect to the article. And guys, to talk about this in the crux of, there is a need for Parliamentary Budget Office which can bring in technical advice, but the bureaucrat and the parliamentarians are not willing to implement it. So there is a need for political will to implement it. Fine. So this is the crux of the article. So guys, I've covered only 3 articles for today, and the rest articles will be covered by me in the another video, which I will be updating today night or tomorrow morning. Most probably I will be updating today night, where I will be covering other important articles which I have left in the past. So as I got few comments that I have to cover certain articles, so I'll be combining those articles and I'll be presenting video. Fine guys. So thank you for watching.